myself, Dr. Prakash Chandra Panigrahi from DAV Public School, Kalinganagar. So, esteemed guest of the day, Dr. Ashok Acharya, my principal, academic supervisors, and dear colleagues. So, hope you all are hale and hearty at this hour in your respective homes along with your family members and the children and kids with you. So, as sir is worried all the time to get teachers should get ample opportunities to regarding the COVID management and the care, and always extending the helping hand. So, thanking from all of us to Principal Sir, I convey my regards and gratitude to Dr. Ashok Acharya, who is a old friend of DAV family. So, he is a family member. I recall the old days when anything is required from DAV, any medical help, it is the phone call goes to Dr. Acharya, so to get the feedback and the assistance. So thank you, sir, with a short notice, and my message is landed in madam's phone. Still, then you gave a call and to brief my teachers, my colleagues regarding the COVID care and management. Thank you, sir. As the family member of DAV, once again, I, on behalf of principal and the management and all the staff members of the school, I welcome you. And let us start the webinar with a healthy mood, and hope you should be fit and fine at all the time. So it is now I have over to the senior faculty of the school, Mr. Jagdish Chandra Das Adhikari, to start the webinar.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I also hope all are in good shape despite the challenging situation owing to the second wave of COVID-19. At the outset, I would like to thank our beloved principal, Mr. Bipin Kumar Sahu, for his perseverance to conduct this type of webinar for sensitizing us all about the pandemic COVID-19 second wave, which is upending life on a global level as we know it. Sir, on behalf of all, once again, I welcome you to this webinar, your webinar this is. Next, I welcome Dr. Ashok Acharya, General Surgeon, MBBS, MS, who has 27 years of experience in gastrointestinal laparoscopy and GI cancer surgery. He is the founder of Ayush Hospital and Trauma Care Private Limited, Bhubaneswar. He is also working in many leading private hospitals in Bhubaneswar and many other cities. Dr. Acharya, I am set to identify, integrate and implement a robust and functioning healthcare facility under Government of India and Government of Odisha, and make medical care available to every sector and every corner of the country. He has got exceptional skill in performing routine and advanced laparoscopic surgery, general surgeries, proficiency in diagnosing conditions that require general surgery, skills in surgical critical care aptitude, and expertise in inducting minimally invasive surgical procedure. His achievements are long and long-lasting, also since he is the first to procure NABL accreditation in Bhubaneswar for Ayush Hospital and Trauma Care, first in the state to take up emergency trauma care with more than 80 to 90% success rate in critically injured patients, first to procure swine flu vaccine in Odisha and spread awareness about the same, and many more. One of the astonishing fact is that Dr. Acharya has a proud lineage of medical history, as so far my knowledge is concerned, there are 18 doctors in his family and relatives. His better half is also a doctor. I welcome you, sir, to this webinar with a round of applause on behalf of all present in this webinar. In fact, this is your webinar and you are here with us to inform and educate us, sir. Hearty welcome to you, sir. I also welcome all my respected supervisors, colleagues, and the family members who have connected with us with a lot of perplexing and challenging medical mystery in your mind to be answered by Dr. Ashok Acharya. we will have the question and answer session with sir. When he finishes his session of awakening us about the new strain, its aggressiveness, virulence, precautions we all should take, and many other things he has already set in his mind to educate us. After that, there will be deliberation or question answer session, and I have already received a number of questions, number of queries from my dear colleagues, and I have already moderated them. And one by one, I would ask Dr. Ashok Acharya to clarify the queries, confusions, and doubts of the queries. So, without delay, may I request Dr. Ashok Acharya to please carry on the session. Sir, please. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Principal Sir, and my dear colleagues, members of the DAV family. And rightly said by Prakash Sir, I have been associated with the school. My son was studying there, and since then, I have been associated with each and every function, and also I know most of the people who are working there, including their family members, their children also who are close to me. To start off, we are facing an unprecedented pandemic of the century. Probably this is the first and last one of the century that we are going to pass through. And after this Spanish flu that happened in 1918, this is the biggest pandemic that has happened in the world. And this was predicted actually in 2013-14 when we had this swine flu. And these illnesses, for all your information, is that these are called influenza-like illnesses, ILI. And this is the biggest threat all over the world, and mostly in the Western countries, because these are cold countries. And influenza-like illnesses are the common lethal diseases that they face to day, and it takes maximum lives more than other diseases. So considering that fact and keeping that fact in mind, when there was a pandemic, there was an epidemic of swine flu in 2013 and 14, I was associated with the team which works for disaster management all over the world. And their team had come to Bhubaneswar, and we had organized a program in 2013 telling that this is just the beginning. Probably we had to see some worse days, and that happened in 2019 December when coronavirus was detected. And it was first, there were a lot of misinformation that was propagated through different platforms, and it was told that there is no human to human transmission. Then it came up that it is not airborne disease. Then it doesn't spread by droplets. A lot of things, a lot of confusions came up. But once this disease started, we were nowhere understanding the disease, neither we didn't know what kind of enemy we are going to face with what all weapons. Like if your enemy attacks with different set of weapons, you try to counter them with some protective measures. But when this appeared in 2019 December, all of you must have read in articles in newspapers about hydroxychloroquine, then about ivermectin, then so many other drugs that they are getting the patients better. But as we got acquainted more and more, we understood the disease pathophysiology, what is happening, and how this virus is attacking the human body. This is not a typical virus like other viruses for which we have taken out vaccines. This is a virus which is a RNA virus. It doesn't have a double strand, it's a single stranded virus. And it goes mutation very rapidly, very fast. Mutation means the structure changes very fast. Why I am emphasizing on this is because of the reason, if it is easier to find, if you know that what kind of reactions the chemical is causing, or the organism, what organ the virus is going to target, then you can prepare layer of protection and save and protect your organs. But when you don't know that which organ it is attacking and how it is attacking, it is very difficult to fight the disease and cure the disease. That was the basic challenge in front of the people who were treating the early COVID patients in the early part, that is in the beginning of 2020. And a lot of postmortems conducted showed that this virus actually causes a equilibrium in the coagulation status of the patient. That means how the blood coagulates. It causes unnecessary clotting where you don't uh, expect the blood clots to block your vessels and make the organs dead. And this pathophysiology was understood gradually, and towards June, July, August, we started improvising on the findings that were reported from different countries, and the spread of the disease was better understood. Then all these things was very clear in front of us that this can spread in any manner. From the clothes to the breath that you are taking, is everything is risky. And I'm not telling this to scare you, but this is a message that should be protected from all angles. Don't think, you just don't think that if I'm wearing a face mask or a face cover, face shield, I'm protected because air nearby, that is some COVID patient is moving around, that bacteria can also come in the droplets or it may be airborne also. But still then, in spite of everything, the biggest relief for all of us was that this infection doesn't show that much of mortality that we are seeing. It's because that patients are avoiding early detection and treatment, for which we are seeing the death rate as so high. But honestly speaking, the death rate will be less than 1% or maybe less than that. And particularly in those categories of patients who have comorbidities in the form of long-standing diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery diseases or heart diseases, kidney failure, or malignancies who are immunocompromised and taking drugs which are compromising their immunity. I want to emphasize on one thing, that scaring yourself of a disease or a condition makes you weaker in every sense, both physically, mentally, and chemically. Your body secretes organisms or chemicals to fight the invasion of different forms, bacteria, virus, and everything, when you are ready to fight mentally, and that also gives you the chemical stimulation from inside the body to fight out the disease condition. This is very, very important, that if we get scared, probably we are not in the right frame of mind to take decisions like that. If you are not uh, uh, in the proper set of mind to fight the infection, your body cannot fight it. That is the take home message that I tell everyone, that don't get scared about the disease. Relax. This infection has come. Probably it will infect all of us and we'll all survive. That's the spirit with which we should work. Second most important thing is, I should make you aware that those people who have got comorbidities in the form of diabetes, hypertension, take your medications regularly. Do not uh, overeat or try to go into a state of depression because you are not allowed to move out, you are not doing your routine work outside, workups you cannot do to the for your morning walks, staying at home indoors all the time, and it certainly affects the mental status of the person. I must say that we have seen it, most of the people, that a lot of people die because of physical inactivity. So please keep yourself physically active in the form that you best can. In the form that find out time when you can go alone, walk alone, go for a walk, or spend some time in physical exercises. That keeps you. Our old methods of yoga, pranayama, and all those things are useful, and those also are to be practiced. This is the time we have free time, and all family members are together. Please try to do pranayama and yoga, whatever you can do in the best possible way. Learn it and do it. Everything is available on the social media platform. Learn the right things and start doing it. And uh, I'll come to the signs, symptoms, and to focus on the corona, particularly COVID disease. That it is a influenza-like illness which has a high success rate. If you read in the books or from the literature, or if you see on the social media platform, that there is no symptoms which has been taken out that it is not COVID. There are all the symptoms are now mentioned, like you have fever as a symptom, sometimes you have cough as a symptom, sometimes sneezes and running nose is the symptom, sometimes itching of the body is the symptom, sometimes diarrhea is a symptom, and sometimes not having any symptoms but your body aches, or you are feeling tired, exhausted, or you are feeling weak is maybe a symptom of coronavirus infection. This you must keep in mind. Think that you may get affected at any point of time, because we are going to shops, we cannot avoid certain things. In spite of maximum protection, there are people who are not very well educated. We don't live in a society where people are very disciplined. They don't think that if I'm moving out, I'll infect somebody else. They don't think about that. So it is better to avoid going to crowded places. Don't go anywhere. And most importantly, if you have these symptoms, please do not do any self-medication. A lot of things are available. I sometimes get WhatsApp messages that I had sneezes, I had a bout of fever following which I took these medicines. And the medicine consists of from colchicine, which was used for malaria in the 1900 century, 19th century, is also being prescribed and people are taking it. I don't tell that they are wrong in that, but if some medicine is written to somebody, how can that be applicable to you? You should consult a doctor and you should get your prescription done correctly. I'll tell you that you must be watching the TV, that what is the situation, current situation. People are dying of oxygen. People are dying of lack of hospital beds. People are dying on the streets. People don't have medicines to buy from. There is long queues in the medical stores. It's a ruckus. And this is caused by us, because we have slightest of the symptoms. We are so scared to die that we rush to the hospital and occupy a bed. We forget that there is another patient. I don't require a bed. I should be at home. I should isolate myself, and I should allow the needy to go, and whoever requires the medical supervision to be in the hospital. Unfortunately, that is not the case. We see that patients rush to the hospital when they are COVID positive. They get admitted. Their saturation is not within normal limits, and they start roaming around for remdesivir and all those drugs, what is not recommended for them. It is a sense of insecurity that has come up. I want to assure all of you about one thing, that we have to go through this infection, all of us. We have to. What we need to have is, we need to have patience. We need to be judicious in our approach. We need to understand that this disease is not going to kill us. After all, I want to say that life and death is beyond our control. What we can do is just take care of the brilliant life that God has given us, and we should learn how to take care of others. In the meantime, about the treatment of the patient, I want to just brief it, because I strongly recommend that please do not go for any self-medication advised on WhatsApp by friends, unless is a trained medical practitioner. I am a surgeon, but keeping abreast with the knowledge that is going on, circulating amongst our fellow colleagues, we keep on reading and enriching ourselves so that it can be imparted to the society and can be of some use. And importantly, this has 4 stages. This disease has 4 stages. Number 1 is that you are detected, you don't have any symptoms. You are just positive, detected to be positive. What do you do? Just isolate yourself. Don't do any medication. Just stay away from the crowd. Be at home isolation or some place where you are alone. Do your work yourself and make others safe. Number 1. Number 2, there may be mild symptoms like a running nose, a few sneezes, and mild cough with a bout or 2 of fever. That is mild. If you are tested positive, there is a standard recommendation of drugs. It depends on what comorbidities you have, and we accordingly prescribe the drugs, which is the recommended format and very safe to use. Use that and stay at home. Isolate yourself. Number 3 is you have moderate symptoms. That means you have cough, fever, severe body ache, and fever not getting remitted even with paracetamol tablets. You should think about, if you are positive, you have moderate disease. In that case, your drugs need to be scaled up. And upscaling the drug means we need to go up a little and see that you don't have any complications in the lungs or heart or anywhere else where you land up in the ICU. That is the cutoff line when we prevent you from going into the ICUs. You need not go to the ICU as long as you are moderate in the moderate degree. Then comes the severe degree. When you start ignoring the disease, you don't take the primary treatment in the first, second, third categories. You go to the 4th stage where your lungs are badly affected. If you have heart disease, your heart is affected, your kidneys are affected, you have clots in the brain, then you have to land up in the ICU. And that's not a good situation for anyone, neither for the patient nor the relatives, nor the doctors as well, because we know what we are dealing with. Probably what is avoidable has become unavoidable now. We don't want to see patients in the ICU struggling for life. And this, you have to carry it in your mind that please test yourself if you have come in close contact with somebody. And if you are positive, there is nothing to hide. This is not a disease that we should hide. We should think about this disease as a disease which is enough number of cases now, enough number, and we all have to go through this. Most of the people are vaccinated. Now government has come with plans for vaccinating from 18 to 45. And once that is on, probably we will be in a better shape to handle the situation. And I advise everyone to take the vaccination whenever the opportunity comes. Do not rush for it. You have the infection on one side and other side is infection. Vaccination doesn't give you 100% protection, but it certainly gives you 80 to 90% protection, and that too, the severity of the disease, you don't land up in the severity status that early to go into the ICU. That prevents going into the ICU. And most importantly, I suggest all of you that self-isolation is the best thing that is to be practiced, learned, and to be implemented. And we have to, I again emphasize that probably we will pass through this infection, all of us, and might be we have already come in contact with people, COVID positive cases, yet we might not be having the symptoms or lucky enough to have escaped. But in coming days, vaccination on, we expect less severe disease, and definitely we can face this challenge with the inputs and support of each other, understanding the disease and detecting it early and treating it early. I expect everyone to understand the dynamics of the disease better. This is airborne disease, spreads through droplets, human to human spread is known. So there is no water is also there is as a medium. So it can come in any form. We have to go through it. Just we need to prepare ourselves mentally to fight it out and defeat Corona, defeat COVID-19, and be the winners. As you are a wonderful set of people guiding most of the parents, I just want to give you this message that please convey this message to the beautiful parents that they should follow these rules. They should follow this early investigation, early detection, and early treatment rather than rushing to the hospitals. There are a lot of platforms which are available, like the one that I am using right now is apnadoctor.com, where its medical advice is available, and we are doing it, and we just completed 100 patients just 2 days back regarding treating home ICU care. The patients are being managed in the home. We are preventing people from going to the ICU. I have a wonderful team of people who are doing round the clock, and we are trying to decrease the workload in the intensive care units and inflow into the hospitals, because the hospital, when it gets overburdened, there is a pressure on the limited manpower, medical fraternity limit, which is limited. We have less resources. We do not have the number of hospitals, desired number of hospitals. The only we can defeat COVID is by preventing getting affected and affecting others getting infected. These are the two things that I want to emphasize. Thank you very much for a wonderful meeting. And you are the teachers whom a lot of people listen to and follow. I request all the teachers to please spread this message that this is avoidable and no need absolutely to worry that if positive infection, if positive report has come as positive, that you are going to be in trouble. This will just go up on its own with treatments which are protocolized, which is there is a set of management protocols which is in place. You just need to make medicines here and there, change according to your comorbidities. Want to change those medicines a little bit, add a few, take out a few according to your body, and see that you are fine. From my side, I am giving you the assurance that whatever time and whenever you need me, you feel free to contact me. I'll be there to guide you. And our team also, I'll share the number with Prakash sir. Our team will also be there helping out to people. And I wish you all good health and don't get affected. And even if you are getting affected, don't get panicky. And this is my message for the day. Thank you so much. Namaskar. I'll take the questions now.
Thank you, sir. Already you have answered so many questions that I had received. First, okay, I will skip all those questions that you have already answered during your session, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yeah, you are audible, sir. Tell me, please.
Thank you, thank you. Sir, first query is how long will it take coronavirus? How long it will be there with us actually? Because every virus has certain deadline, whether this is having certain deadline or not.
See, this there are different studies which has come up. The common practice is that you isolate the patients for 10 days. Earlier it was 14 days. But it has been proved that the virus stays in the body and get excreted in the fecal matter till 21 days. So 20 till 21 is that fecal-oral transmission possibilities you cannot be ruled out. But you are in a safe zone when you are crossing 14 days, 14 to 20, as long as there is no direct fecal-oral contamination. So 14 days to 21 days is the safe limit and what we should take as.
Thank you, sir. Second question is how to differentiate or identify among COVID, viral fever, or any other kind of fever like typhoid?
Usually, this viral fever also presents like this: body aches and type of cold and all that. This is, I initially told, influenza-like illness. Viral fever is also a fever which is influenza-like illness. That is category. But we had not detected what the virus is. Now we have detected what is the virus. Don't label anything as viral fever. It's COVID or non-COVID. There are two kinds of fever.
Yes.
So when it is fever with body ache or features of common cold, you should think about corona COVID-19.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, another query is that in which day of COVID, if a person is COVID positive, there are chances of development of pneumonia in our body. Is it a trend that pneumonia is bound for all COVID patients? If so, what are the precautions to avoid pneumonia?
See, the usual trend is that it happens usually from 7th day, the day one on which the test report comes as positive. From that day, if you have detected early, if you have detected after 5 days of fever, then you have to count backwards. You have to go to the first day when you have the onset of symptoms. But if you have a disease where you have tested early and you have come positive, then start from the day of past of giving your test, your RT-PCR test. That is the day one. Day 1 to day 7 days, you have to watch out and take regular medication. But you don't have, along with that, you should not have any comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. But if you don't have this diabetes, hypertension, and coronary artery disease or heart disease, then it is the day 7 to day 14 which is very, very important. And most of the people, they develop this pneumonia-like symptoms, breathlessness, shortness in breath, and decrease in oxygen saturation from 7 to 15 days. So if you have treated this disease from the beginning, then 7 to 14 days is not going to be critical for you. So I mean to say that your first 7 days will give you your decision to treat the disease takes you from 7 to 15 days, after which you are disease free. You are completely out of danger.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Another query is there. If one gets recovered from COVID, then on which day one can get vaccinated?
There should be a gap of around 28 days, 4 weeks.
24.
Again, there is lot of differences are there, and there is a lot of discussion regarding how many days should be the gap between the first and second dose. So these questions are very common and a lot of confusions have been created. But once infection has happened and you are going for the vaccination, you should take a 4 weeks time, because antibodies start getting formed in your body 14 days and it peaks the third week, 21 days. So you should take the vaccination after 4 weeks. That's the ideal time to get vaccinated.
Thank you, sir. A diabetic patient having 200 plus mg glucose aged 65 should be vaccinated or not?
All patients should be vaccinated.
All patients should be. Okay, thank you, sir. Now, sir, how to disinfect vegetables and not packaged grocery during this time? Actually, is it safe to clean the vegetables with VegiClean disinfectant?
No, certainly not. Do not use any chemicals. It has been told that soap and water are the best disinfectants in the world. Okay, I don't ask you to, just keeping it under running water. The vegetables are fairly good enough to, because you are cooking it. We are not eating any raw vegetables. And for fruits and all, we need to leave it for some time before we consume it. Wash our hands properly, peel it off, and keep it away for at least 6 hours before you consume it. That is the standard practice in most of the cases.
Thank you, sir. So next is Sir, about airborne, you have already told that it is airborne and through droplet it goes. So I am skipping all these questions, sir. Is lemon therapy good to heal from COVID?
Lemon therapy,
Yes,
it
sir.
helps. It helps. Lemons, it contains a lot of vitamin C.
Yes.
Normally, we give the synthetic form vitamin C, whatever you are getting in the synthetic form, and from those any citrus fruit, for example, like lemons and oranges and all these things, it contains a lot of vitamin C. So, vitamin C really helps in the recovery of from COVID.
Thank you, sir. Next is vaccines available nowadays are effective 100% or not, sir? You have already answered that 70 to 80% it works well. Very nice, sir. Next is, if mask is compulsory at home for all now, then at the time of sleeping, should we use it as we feel suffocated when we use for a long time? What is about mask hygiene also?
Yes, that's a very important question, and many people read in between the lines and keep on using mask at home. If you do not have COVID patients at home, please do not wear the mask. That's what I advise you. Number one. If you are moving to a crowd place where the physical distancing, social distancing is less than 6 feet, then please wear a mask and wear it properly. You see many people wear a mask lying here in the near the chin. It's not a face mask, it's a chin mask. You find in a lot of people. They are just, it's a face mask, mouth mask. It covers the mouth. When you are covering it, you cover it properly so that it becomes airtight. Or put a plaster on top of it so that you don't exhale things from outside, they don't enter from up. Air always comes from up. It does not have an upward flow, it has a downward flow. So you have to, when you're putting over your nostril, it should be tightly tucked so that nothing comes from above. And whatever you are breathing is from below. So that is the reason, not at home, don't wear the mask. Number two is, do not run after this mask, face mask, because the virus size is too small to prevent entry. It's just a satisfaction that you are wearing a mask. And thirdly, wearing a mask, you are rebreathing the carbon dioxide that you are exhaling many of the times. So putting it on, it increases your carbon dioxide level and you feel sleepy, tired, because that is called hypercarbia. You have carbon dioxide accumulation in your body also. So it is equally important to know where to use the mask and where not to. But nothing replaces fresh air. When you have fresh air, please breathe, do not put on the mask. While sleeping also, don't put on the mask. It's only when COVID positive patients are there, you put on the mask.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, sir, one of my colleagues had sent it. Age 62, female having asthma and blood pressure. Can this person take vaccine, sir?
Yes.
60,
Yes.
having asthma and BP,
yes.
having high. Okay, sir.
Yes.
Then another person, age is 67, having blood pressure, thyroid, and taking neuromedicines. Can he be vaccinated?
Yes, he can be vaccinated.
Okay, sir. The last query of that colleague is that age 36, female having 6 months baby, doing breastfeeding. Can she be vaccinated?
Yes, she can be vaccinated.
Thank you, sir. Another query from my colleague, it is not absolutely related to COVID, sir, but he desperately wants to know from you. Sir, he has written, I always face the problem in my stomach like hyperacidity, burning in chest, oxygen saturation sometimes goes down during morning, and sometimes heart beating becomes very high and very low, irregular.
How old is the patient?
Sir, 35 or 6 like this.
I think that it is some kind of anxiety that is playing the role more than anything. Okay, I'll not put it into any diseases. And this kind of symptoms usually you find it when there is a reflux esophagitis. When you have acid reflux into the esophagus, or while you are sleeping, the acid goes into your food pipe, these symptoms are there. So lungs get affected because of that acid that going into the food pipe, and this is a very common symptom which is often misinterpreted and misjudged. Probably she has to take medicines for hyperacidity that will take care of the situation.
Okay, sir. He has also added that when I wake up early in the morning, it is very difficult to walk or stand because sometimes I feel entire body thrills. When I take lukewarm water in the early morning, gas comes through my mouth. I always feel heaviness in my stomach, very poor appetite for which I don't want to take any food for eating. Please suggest what to do.
So since how many days this is happening?
I think, sir, if you are present, can you please talk to sir? Okay.
Unmute. Raise your hand and unmute.
Sir, please raise your hand. Who has given this query, please? I think he is not.
You can suggest him to do one thing.
Sir. Sir, please. Please, sir.
Yeah, you can suggest him to do one thing, that he's having this kind of symptoms in the early morning. He should check his blood sugar level, number one. See what is his blood sugar is. His fasting blood sugar. And number two is check his thyroid status.
Yes, sir.
And if possible, get an endoscopy done. Well, not now. Let him take this proton pump inhibitors, pantoprazole, omeprazole, and all those drugs that he can take twice and see whether he is getting the relief or not.
Sure, sir. I will convey him. Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Next query is from another colleague. How the virus spread and affect the human body when oxygen saturation goes down to 88 or below that? What should we do at that time after providing oxygen to the patient?
This is very pertinent question at current times. If the oxygen saturation, there is nothing to worry when the oxygen saturation is around 90 to 92. You should not at all panic. There is certainly something to worry and can be taken care of if the oxygen saturation goes below 90. That is alarming. We need to take care of it. And the best way to bring up your oxygen is prone yourself. Prone means lie down on your face. Face down. You just turn around and sleep on your belly. That is the best position for increasing your oxygen saturation level. That is called proning of the body. And that works as a natural ventilator when your diaphragms, they release the pressure from your lungs and you suck more of oxygen from the air. So if you find that the oxygen saturation has come down to 88, 89 something, as soon as you prone the patient, make him just, if he's facing towards the roof, just reverse the position, put his face the bottom, the ground, and make him lie with a pillow below his chest, a small pillow below his chest. And when you do that, you find the oxygen saturation will go up to 93, 94. And by lying down in that position, you avoid a lot of complications. You can later on find out oxygen concentrator or oxygen cylinder, whatever, if he is not in the hospital. But this is the usual method that you prone the patient, your oxygen saturation will go up. And find out whether there is any problems in the lungs. Probably we need to do a CT scan to find out how much the lung has infected, got infested with the virus.
So next query is who all cannot take COVID vaccine, sir?
The patients with severe allergy to any kind of allergy. The allergy to drugs, allergy to food, allergy to your dust or everything. Those who have severe allergy to anything, they should not take this drug.
So then also the same colleague has asked one more question. Can one take COVID vaccine if he is on psychiatric treatment?
Yes, can take.
Can take. Thank you, sir. Sir, one more query is there. Sir, what is the difference between first dose and second dose of vaccination?
There is no difference between first dose and second dose of vaccination. Only thing is that when the first dose is given, the antibody formation, your body recognizes the virus which is living and also attenuated. It just detects that, so it creates the mechanism to protect against it. When the second dose is given, it reacts to the external injection that is given, injected into body. So there is a fight inside the body, which you find in different forms. The patient usually they develop fever, severe myalgia, and some people develop COVID-like symptoms also after the second dose. So this is the difference between the first and second dose. First dose, you have very limited reaction. Second dose, you may have a severe reaction, or you may have COVID-like symptoms. But those are all short term. By 2021st day, these will all disappear and patient will be fine.
That means the same medicine is given, same amount and same medicine is given.
Same things.
Another query is there. If a person takes first dose and does not get the second dose because he is transported from one place to another place, and here in this place something else is given, like suppose Covaxin is given in Bhubaneswar, but in village areas Covishield is given. Due to certain reason, that person has come to city area and here Covishield is not available. What that person can do?
Ideally, it should be one injection which has to be taken. Ideally, but in the case it is not available, you should go for the available vaccine. You should not avoid it.
That means he has already taken first dose, but it is not recorded. It is not recorded because in mobile it is showing that not vaccinated, but he has taken first dose.
How does that happen? There is some entry, it has not been entered or something like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So he can take the Covishield. There are no problems with that.
Covishield is not available in Bhubaneswar.
So it can take somewhere else.
Yes, sir. Then, so these were the queries, and some other queries are there. You have already answered through all these queries, sir. So thank you very much for your patience, and so many questions were asked, but you answered all these queries so successfully that I thank you so very much. If any other query is there, I would like to request Dr. Prakash Chandra Panigrahi sir to please whether they can ask right now through the WhatsApp, or if any complication is there, they can talk to sir. Prakash sir.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for Dr. Acharya for guiding this team of DAP family. But sir, another one question I have while we are going through different discussions. So we have started with COVID-19. So now it is reaching at 21. So is there any difference? Why there is a oxygen level shortage in there? It is the second time, while it was not there in the first time. What is the actually this shortage of scarcity of oxygen? Sir, what is the reason behind it? Is there any difference of that?
Yes, there are three things which has caused this kind of a situation for all of us, which is not a good situation. Number one is that the first time we got the virus known to us and we got infected, it was a kind of virus which has less infectivity and less mortality. We call it less virulent. It was less virulent and the infectivity was low. The double mutant that we got recently from South Africa and UK, they have high virulence and highly infective. They travel very fast, they spread very fast, and they affect the people. And it is, in spite of having vaccinated patients getting vaccination also, these strains, they affect the infected human beings. Secondly, the symptoms, there are so many patients who do not have any symptoms in the early part of the disease, and suddenly they start having deterioration in the saturation level. They get panic and rush to the hospital. So number one, less awareness among the public, forgetting that social distancing and wearing a mask is very, very compulsory. We tried to ignore something which was already existing and tried to meddle around. And that is the reason we are suffering today. And that is the reason why there are so many patients who require hospital beds. There are so many patients who require oxygen now. Because these double mutant and triple mutant strains, they directly affect the lungs within a few days of getting infection if you're not getting the treatment and if you have comorbidities. That is the reason the beds got occupied, people got scared, infection was going on, people were not following the norms of social distancing and wearing the mask, and social gatherings were not prohibited. All these reasons caused the increase in number of cases and overcrowding of hospital beds. And that is the reason there is an artificial scarcity of oxygen that was created. And that we are getting the picture now. If we don't become careful about the situation, similar situation will also arise in Odisha. We'll have to rush for oxygen. We have to ask for oxygen.
Thank you, sir. But government is taking a step, and that committee which was government was formed, I am happy to tell the body that you are also a member of that committee to suggest a complete lockdown for some period. You are a member of that BMC committee. That I am happy to tell my friends here. And government is taking step, but people should take care of this. That's actually the reason. But sir, I want to that I will ask the teacher who has concern about the gastric issue. Will meet you, taking an appointment with you. But my point is, gastric is a regular with people. But why that same gastrology patient is facing this oxygen shortage? Is there any air due to this virus? Air it is affecting the person?
No, it is not like that. The patients who are immunocompromised in any form, okay, any form of any ailments, they are having this problem. They are more prone to have more severe form of the disease. It has nothing to do with gastritis or with the gastric patients that you are mentioning about. We should not be concerned about that, and it has nothing to do with COVID-19 infection.
Thank you, sir. I have little two queries regarding this, but as per the Jagdish sir's version, if anybody can ask, because we have hide the names of the
Sir, I have
teachers
already
to
got
check.
2 more right now, sir. I'll ask.
Yes, you can ask.
Sir, one more query is there, sir. Can pregnant women take vaccine?
This has not come in the standard protocol of giving vaccination to the pregnant women. But this is not in my jurisdiction or any my knowledge that what should be done. But I can put up a message to you by inquiring from my friends. I am very honest about things which I don't know. I have to just check out.
Yes,
Okay, so I can tell about other things which I know, but this is probably no decision is taken on this. But pregnant ladies, women getting infected with COVID and then delivering, I have heard about that safely.
Yes, sir.
But vaccination protocol is still now not decided. I believe so. But anyway, I will WhatsApp you your answer positively by 7 p.m.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
But sir, Dr. Neeraj Mishra was telling this issue once in a TV answer, but he is telling that if you don't have the symptoms, don't take.
But if you have the symptoms also, you don't take because you have to have a gap.
That is not answered.
So that is controversial. That's why I didn't make any comments on that. I have to look into the international protocol, what US and UK are following, and then I can answer.
Okay, sir. We will be obliged, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your honesty, sir. One more query is there: how to improve immunity during these days?
The best thing is that stay happy, stay cheerful, spend quality time with your family, and secondly, you do a little bit of breathing exercises that you can do. Long inhalation, long exhalation. That is called conscious breathing. You are conscious and you are still breathing, inhaling and exhaling. That keeps your respiratory tract clean. And apart from that, the old methods that we used to follow, like having, there are so many advices that is found on the social media. Take haldi and turmeric, then tulsi, honey, and all those things. Adrak. So many things are there on them. And there is a, from the Ayush Ministry, there is a kadha, which has been publicized and also recommended by WHO also. And that can be taken regularly during these COVID times to keep up the immunity. Don't take fast food or food which decreases your immunity. That is one thing which is very, very bad for health. Do not take food which is rich. Take nutritious and quality food which gives you quality energy. Don't take too much of carbohydrates. Adequate carbohydrates, adequate proteins, and adequate oil. That keeps your immunity boosted up, along with physical exercises. And staying happy is a very important thing, and staying positive is a very important thing. And that keeps your energy and immunity all right.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, very much. One more query is there. Right now, I got it. Right now, sir, that how long one can continue with the antibiotics suggested for COVID?
Should be for 10 days after detection.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I think yes, almost all the queries are answered except one query. So this will be the last one. If I have taken Covaxin in one hospital, can I take the second dose of the same vaccine in another hospital or not?
Yes, can take. No issues.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you for your expertise and for your quality time that you spent with us, sir. And now I would like to request our esteemed principal, sir, to please, sir, say something for our beloved doctor who is present with us very much. And please, sir, please.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Really, sir, I'm thankful to you for presenting and solving the issues of my colleagues so lucidly. Really, this is a learning point at this stage, and being under so much that is challenging times, being busy in these challenging times of COVID. You are having so much patience, so lucidly you answered all the points, all the issues, many issues they have raised. I think I understand them. They are from their heart, what they're facing. So thank you a lot for sharing your expertise with all my colleagues. So one point to all my colleagues, the outbreak of COVID-19 no doubt has put a comma on our day-to-day life, but be sure we have to move on. We have to move on. One thing is required, the confidence, the sincerity, and the act of responsibility. No doubt, this is a challenging time for all of us, but losing patience is not going to give benefit. Rather, the ways and means, whatever they are in our favor, let's look into this. Really, sir has told how to develop the immune system. Lastly, he has told, I was looking into, be happy, spare your valuable time with your family members, take some kadha, do some pranayams, and be confident. And moreover, whatever Sarah has told, let me repeat, don't lose patience, but from early days, take precautions. If early days precautions will be taken, I think 95% problems will be sorted out. So this is a challenging time for all of us. Once again, I thanks to Dr. Acharya for his kind gesture and convey our gratefulness from all my colleagues for sparing his very crucial.
I think sir has got
Sure,
this.
you what suggestions, your guidelines will go a long way to solace the mental trauma of our teacher colleagues. At last, I appreciate the initiative taken by our COVID team, headed by the Prakash Paningrai, Dr. Prakash Paningrai and his team members. I know 4 or 5 days before we talked with him, I had a lot of worriness about whatever going on and how the teachers should be more careful, cautious and confident, so that let us not be like whatever happening in the society. Let's try to our level best. And I'm thankful to Dr. Acharya for extending his helping hand, that any of the teachers who is going to give any message or any call, within his suitable time, he will respond. Sir, this gesture will give a lot of confidence to all my colleagues. So with this, again, I pray to Almighty for his blessings to mankind. May this pandemic be wiped out from the earth. Thank you, sir, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of the entire staff members of the school, I once again thank Dr. Ashok Acharya and for his guidance, for his motivation for life, and he said that life is precious. We have to take care, sir. Your suggestion, advices, everything will be taken care of, sir. Thank you so very much, and your assurance to help us during the time of need. What our beloved principal sir said right now. This is really precious at this moment, and this is what make you one of the COVID warriors of our state, sir. Thank you for guiding us, and we also pray for your safety, your family safety, and your the success in the future endeavors, sir. I would like to thank all my colleagues and their family members, and especially the COVID committee, as sir told, for arranging this webinar. Thank you so very much all for joining. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namaskar. Thank you.